trying to record again. I'm so sporadic with it. Like too many things in my life. I am not as consistent as I would like to be. And consistency is key. So, I have had some thoughts rolling around in my brain that I've been processing. Especially as we come up on the holidays. So we're in December right now, got through Thanksgiving, and there's something about the loom of Christmas, and I think part of it is because we end up celebrating for like an entire month. I think that's part of the reason why when we hit January, it's like you just have such a holiday hangover because Christmas is like so intense, and it's like not necessarily in a bad way, but it's like company stuff, friend stuff, family stuff, kids stuff, if you're into the Santa portion, if you're into the religious side, there's something every week, and there's just a lot. There can just be a lot. And so going at that like pace for a month, I think is part of the reason why you get that like hangover feeling. But it's also a great reminder of all of the relationships in your life. It's just like front and center. You can't totally avoid it. And relationships are so tough. So it's like either the relationships you're currently in, relationships of your past, as in maybe you're no longer in that relationship, and it's like dead, severed, or past relationships like with the same person. So it's like as you evolve and change, and there's different seasons and friendships that last, or romantic relationships that last, or family relationships that last. There's old experiences, and then there's like the current relationship that you have with that person, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent for both. There's just so much, I think, emotional stuff that comes to the forefront during the holidays. And for me, I have really just become so acutely aware of how crucial therapy is. And I hope it's not like completely corny and you're not just like, screw you, lady, like I don't need therapy, I'm fine, I had a fine childhood. Fine, great. I also thought I had a decent childhood. However, therapy, I find, gives you the tools to deal with things that you don't even realize you're not dealing with well. So I look at therapy like education, like anything else that you do in life. There are ways that you can learn and grow and educate yourself, and I feel like therapy just gives you that. I don't think that the like mental, emotional masturbation of just continually going to therapy like for years and years and years and years, and I mean, gosh, I think I did therapy 5 or so years now, maybe, but I'm talking like lifers. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe some of you lifers, it's working out well and it makes sense for you. But I also know a lot of people who are in therapy for 20 years, and I'm like, I don't think your therapy's working. I don't know what your therapist is doing, but I don't think it's their job. I think you're a cash cow. I say this because there comes a point, which is kind of my whole point in all of this, is you need to garner the tools, and then you need to actively use the tools. So I have been finding for myself, I stopped going to therapy just because I was starting to feel like, okay, I'm ruminating, and not necessarily in like a overcoming. It's I'm bringing it back up in therapy to discuss, but I'm not doing the work outside of therapy that I need to be doing. So I removed myself. And then it sounds ridiculous, if you've never done it, but you have to let yourself feel your feelings. You can't think your way through your feelings. And I'm like a thinker. I'm like a processing, logical, and I think that's what I've done most of my life is I'm just like, well, that's not that bad. And it's like, okay, but dismissing yourself and downplaying your own emotions, like it's a form of self-sabotage, really, because you're not allowing yourself to express yourself. You're not allowing yourself to actually feel what you feel and then move through it. So, all of that to say, stopping going to therapy, but then implementing things that I'm learning. So, tons of removing ego. So, like, if you're offended, so sorry, this road is such trash. I have such a good stretch of time to record, but this road is such trash. So if this is like, that's why. But removing ego, you almost cannot be offended. First of all, being offended is a choice. It's a choice. You're choosing to be offended by something, and it's also giving someone else power over you. You're allowing someone else to have power over you when you're offended. And I have just found that if you just remove your ego from it, as in, this probably isn't even about me. Like, most often, so sorry, bridge. Most often when people are saying or doing things, it's not even about you. So you are getting offended, but really all they're revealing is something about themselves. Now, I'm not talking about if you're legitimately having a heart-to-heart conversation with someone that you know and trust and love, and you wholeheartedly believe that they trust and love you as well. That's not necessarily a projection or of them just spewing their shit onto you. In a healthy way, there is a way to communicate how someone made you feel without it just being, without it just being them not deflecting. I'm gonna say deflecting. We'll just go with that because it's a lack of sincerity. It's a deflection. It's a not taking accountability for something. But in a sincere conversation, heartfelt, I do think that they're not deflecting. They're attempting intimacy. They're attempting to kind of bridge that. But in your everyday life or your acquaintances, like the people that are in your life but they're not really they're probably not like your core people, remove your ego from it. See that's probably a hurt person. And even if you're not the one that did the hurting, they're probably a hurt person. Most people are hurting. Life is kind of messy. Life is kind of hard, difficult. It can be a struggle. And I don't say that to be like a Debbie Downer. I'm actually not in any kind of a depressive episode right now. So I'm not like, I want to kill myself. I'm okay right now. So when I say that, I don't say it to be like negative, but life can really be difficult. There's just a lot of elements, and there's typically some kind of a struggle. And that's not to say that the overwhelming thing in your life isn't good, but there's normally a thing or two that you wish were better or that you could change or whatever. But when you go into just your everyday life with that understanding that life is kind of hard, most people are dealing with a bunch of shit that they're not necessarily showing. A lot of people have a lot of trauma that they're not dealing with. It's the classic, if you don't handle your shit handles you. And more often than not, when your shit is handling you, you're so unaware. You're so out of touch with you and what you're experiencing or what your experiences were, and you've denied how you feel for so long. You can't see that. But the people around you that know anything, have any kind of emotional intelligence, can go, like that person has delayed taking responsibility and accountability for either themselves or their relationships or what happened to them, whatever, and it's spilling out onto other people. It's so amazing to me, and I feel like it's like everything else in life. This is such a simple concept, and yet it's not easy. Like, there's nothing easy about what I'm saying. But when you can remove your ego and remove any offense taken, and you can look at a person and you can still hear what they're saying. I'm not saying completely blow them off. Some people, sure. That was a waste of time that I will never get back listening to make your comment or your statement or you're going off on me or whatever. But glean from it what you can, because there might be, crumbs of truth in there or whatever, or something like, oh, yeah, I probably could have handled that better. Or, oh, you know what, that's a recurring, I could probably do better on this. But mostly, just don't pick up other people's shit that they're laying down. I cannot begin to tell you the peace that has come for me when I'm able to just stop taking everything so personally. It's most of the time not even about me. And full transparency, I am a very selfless, giving person, or at least so I have thought. But if I'm constantly offended and constantly thinking everything is about me and constantly thinking that you're thinking about me, or like good, bad, or indifferent, like if I'm just constantly like, oh, this person doesn't like me, or oh, I could have handled that better, oh, I'm just ruminating on me. It is so unhelpful. It's so unhelpful. It's so unhelpful to my relationships. It does not serve me well. If you're not careful, it really does harbor like a form of narcissism, because you're just so self-focused. Therapy has helped me so much just understand so often stuff isn't about me, and when it is about me, to communicate well, to use I, to take responsibility and accountability, because I'm only responsible ultimately for me. Now, I mean, I have kids, so I'm responsible for my kids, but like relationship wise, I'm only responsible for me. I'm responsible for my reaction. I'm responsible for how I treat other people. I'm responsible for my actions. I can't be responsible for anybody else's. Nobody else's emotions are mine to manage. Like, I think that we often aren't as honest as we should be because we're attempting to manage other people's emotions, when really, we just need to worry about us. And in a non-egotistical way. Just worry about yourself. Worry about your own shit. You have enough of your own shit. And give grace. You would want grace given. You know when you've had a bad day. You know when you haven't handled things well. You know when that was not your best form. You know. And it's amazing what someone else giving you grace can do for you to be like, okay, you know what? No, I didn't handle that the best. Could have been worse. Lesson learned here. This person gave me the grace to take the space to reflect, to be like, okay. Just give grace. More often than not, people really aren't actually being malicious. So like when we're going to this holiday season and there are so many relationships that are you have to like interact with, give grace. Don't take shit personally. Remove your ego from pretty much everything. Only take responsibility for you. And make sure you're actually taking responsibility for you. Don't slack. Take responsibility and accountability. If you mess up, own it. Quick. The quicker the better. And if you need to, Don't over apologize. Don't fake apologize. That's something else I really have to work on. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for my existence and bothering you. It's like, okay, Sarah. But sincerely apologize when applicable. It's amazing how that can like mend something. The faster that you're able to go, I'm sorry, I could have handled that better. I could have been nicer. I was just hungry or tired or overstimulated, whatever. But own it. If you're not in therapy already, get in it now. Like yesterday, get on a waiting list. I don't care. I don't know about the whole BetterHelp thing. I'm not sure about the online kind of stuff. I've heard mixed reviews, but do something. You're in the longest relationship with you. And the holidays can bring out the worst in people just because they're so stressed and so overstimulated. And it's amazing if you just calm down a little, reflect a little, stop being so self-centered a lot, give some grace. It goes a long way. If I cannot emphasize this enough, if you do not learn how to handle your shit, it will handle you and you will be embarrassed. If it's not in that moment, it'll be later in life, but there will come a point where you go, oh, like I don't feel good about that at all. I wish I could do a redo on that. That's my advice. That's what I've been mulling over. Therapy for everyone. It's not just for broken people. It's not just for daddy issues, even though some of us have those. Some of y'all got mommy issues too, for being for real. But it's tools, it's education. It's an education on yourself, it's an education on people, and it's just good relationship skills, honestly, at the end of the day. And we're all in relationships all over the place. So wouldn't you want to be able to handle them better than what you are maybe last year or the year before or whatever? Can't recommend it enough. Have a happy holidays, friends. Merry Christmas to those of you that celebrate. Love yourself first. You're in the longest relationship with yourself. It'll do you good. All right. Talk to you later.